What's good, y'all? My name is Rorvis Paradox, aka Docs Brando, and I would like to welcome you all to Rorvis Reviews. This is going to be my first video ever on this channel, and I'm beyond excited about it. The topic of today's video is my favorite movies of all time, and I wanted this to be my first video because I didn't want the usual, first video to be about, here's what to know about me, my background, things of that nature, how I got to this point. I want to kind of save that for a later date. So instead, I want to talk about the movies that I love so passionately or I like to speak about, and use that as kind of like a way to encapsulate what makes me me. So there's no particular order with the films that I'm going to be discussing. I love these films each for a variety of reasons, and for the most part, a lot of these films are concrete in their places, so there's no reason to kind of make them fight each other. So I much rather enjoy the conversation that I'm bringing to you all about these movies, and hopefully you enjoy what you're going to experience. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first movie I want to talk about is Blade, 1998, directed by Steve Norrington. It's kind of funny how a movie created the same year as my birth is also one of my favorite movies of all time. Kind of like it was destined to be one of my favorite comic book movies, something that I've gone to and watched a lot as an adult, as well as, many times as a child. I've seen this movie too many times to count, and I can quote it often randomly off the top of my head. This movie means the world to me. This movie in particular, Wesley Snipes, are the reasons I love the character Blade so much. If it wasn't for Snipes, I don't think anyone would like Blade nor love him as much as we highly regard the character, honestly. This film had some of the great fights, some great cinematography, and even though there's some like 90s fast edits that were like a part of those times, it's still very a timeless film to me. Honestly, it only has one flaw, and even with that flaw, it's still damn near perfect in my eyes. So we're talking about great characters with Whistler, and then we got great characters in Deacon Frost, as well as some surprise characters that you find out later in the film. Honestly, this film, is just one of those ones to me, and I'm always going to be its champion to defend it and to call it what it is, and that's one of the best comic book movies ever. Now, the next film I wanted to talk about is 2017's Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele. This film is amazing. This film is the first time seeing this film in theaters was an experience that I wish I can go through again and again. I was very hesitant about the film with Peele being at the helm, but he did not disappoint. He knocked it out the park, honestly. This film is spectacular with its social commentary, its cinematography, as well as the great acting from the cast. I've been in similar situations to the protagonist Chris, portrayed by Daniel Kaluuya. The way non-blacks speak to Black Americans can be beyond embarrassing and shocking, and head-scratching. I know, similar to a scene where a white woman asks the character he's with that is it better, insinuating is it better to have relations with the African American male, and being in situations where someone is insinuating that my genitalia is enlarged, or that they are half black, but only black from the waist down. It's amazing that some things are very close to home in some situations. It's a damn shame it was that it was snubbed at the Oscars that year. Some people want to see a movie about a fish guy having relations with a deaf woman and see that as best picture, and if that's your cup of tea, cool. But if you're too scared to highlight one of the best films of that year because of how it makes you feel uncomfortable with the topic, well, you're kind of a coward. But that's neither here nor there. This is one of the best films I've ever got to experience, and I've seen it so many times, and I love watching it every single time, just because I get to pay attention to more details in the background. So there's that. Now, the next film is Superbad, directed by Greg Mottola in 2007. This film holds a very special place in my heart, honestly. I remember watching it for the first time with my best friend when he stayed the night when we were like 12 or 13. We laughed the whole time, and for valid reasons, but at sometimes it's like some moments, you really don't understand. like when you're younger, but now things become way funnier when you're older. But they were just some like wholehearted laughs that came from that moment, and I just cherish those forever. But it's just like I would consider this film the pinnacle of coming of age films. I think it doesn't really overstay its welcome. I think the comedic points really hit, and I think there's certain areas where it's like, it talks about the looming cloud of like possibly losing your best friend as you grow older, and it's not in a bad way. It's just like, there's moments where you might grow apart, and I think that's a very touching moment for a film that no one really thinks about for its seriousness, but always considers its comedic tones and whatnot. And it definitely, it nails the part. It nails it. The funniest moments are, oh my god, I don't want. Oh, just the dancing period scene is just, that's comedy gold right there. Just comedy gold. But this film is a ton of laughs, and when the moments are meant to feel sincere, they truly do. So that's why it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think, between Michael Cera and Jonah Hill, this was a duo that, I didn't think would pair so well. But honestly, they do an excellent job in these roles. So what else can I say but great job on them, and Greg Matola and Seth Rogen for producing, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, everything about this film is just tremendous. Now, the next film I have the pleasure of talking about is Life, 1999, directed by Ted Demme. This is starring Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy. I consider this the most depressing comedy ever. I also consider it one of the most thought-provoking movies. Going through the time with Ray Gibson and Claude Banks, both portrayed by our dynamic duo here, is going through their experience that is heart-wrenching. Yet it's so close to reality that it's hard to look away. There's certain moments where you're getting genuine laughs and are caring about each of these characters' goals and what brought them to this point. And there's some really great laughs. Some very, oh my god, this movie is so quotable. I'll quote this movie so often, but you don't really think about how much it directly connects to our everyday lives. Really thinking about how impactful the 13th Amendment is, which if you don't remember, the 13th Amendment says if you're in prison, you're basically a slave. So these poor characters were basically doing slave labor for on the government's dollar, and just be able to be used and abused. And it's just a tragic story, but you kind of don't really think about it as much, because of the star-studded cast that is just bringing life to this film and taking it to a very unreachable level that most can't. And then the cast is the only reason you're laughing instead of crying. Honestly, from the late great Bernie Mac, from Anthony Anderson to even for some odd reason Rick James is in here, but you barely can recognize him. Everyone plays their role so greatly, and it's just something that I always come to. And one of my favorite quotes that I say often is "Cause I'm a nasty motherfucker." And so many other quotables. I love this film so much, and I just have to give it its praise right now. Up next is Django Unchained 2012, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Truly one of my favorite westerns of ever, and my favorite Tarantino movie, starring Jamie Foxx, Christopher Waltz, and Leonardo DiCaprio. The creative film with Quentin at the reins brings his interpretations of spaghetti westerns, which were known to be very brutal, very gory, splattery, blood, all the good stuff, with his twist on writing and his twist in mind with how these characters would maneuver in this world, and really taking the how can I put this, the way slavery was, really showing like the brutality of it, as well as showing how ironic it was that Southerners believed that they were much better, but were just as brutal, dirty. And also if you didn't notice in this film, it was a very interesting take that all the slaves, you can understand them clearly, no problem with their language. But the Southerners, you couldn't understand a lick. They all sound like Boomhauer from King of the Hill, but they were supposed to be the ones that were the superior ones. Kind of funny way to show that and highlight it. So many quotable scenes in this movie, and some even memorable brutal ones. I can't. What else can I say about this film? I loved it for its way of portraying the hero's journey. Django entering one world of being a slave, uh, then going into the new world of the bounty hunter, of the free man, and his journey of going through trials and tribulations, his learning the tutelage under a master, and going to this new world, this new danger, and losing his mentor, but still being able to overcome and utilize the things he learned from them. So I just love this film so much, and I watched it so many times, and I always love to give it his praise. Now, the next film I want to talk about is Kingsman: The Secret Service 2014, directed by Matthew Vaughn. I've never been that interested in spy movies, but this film is the exception. I remember the first time I watched this film and was just amazed by it. From the opening scene to our introduction to Eggsy, played by Taron Egerton. Uh, this film has so many great action sequences is that it's like if you blink, you might miss three cuts. A straight amazement. It's just mind-boggling to watch. One scene in particular, I would consider one of the best scenes from the 2010s. All I have to do is say, Free Bird and the church, and a lot of people will know what I'm referring to. The cast brought their A game to this project and created a fun, action-packed film, and I always love coming back to this movie ever so often. It's just one of my favorites, and I always try to recommend it to anybody that's interested in action movies. Now, a very rare pick, and some might, look at me differently for, but I have to put up Too Fast, Too Furious 2003, directed by the late great John Singleton. This movie is my favorite out of the Fast and the Furious franchise. This movie brought more cars, more races, more action than the first movie ever did. Too Fast, Too Furious exchanges the scenery of Southern California with Miami, Florida. This brings better shots, better backdrops for the film. Paul Walker reprises his role as Brian O'Connor with co-star Tyrese Gibson as Roman Pierce, and they create a great dynamic between the characters that feels genuine. It would be wrong of me if I didn't give a nod to the great performances from the rest of the cast. Plenty of memorable scenes and quotable lines. This is just one of those films from my childhood that no matter how old I get, my feelings for it never change. I can watch this, every single year, and still feel the exact same way, getting the same great warm feelings I have of it, just thinking about the amazement of the garage scene towards the end, where the variety of different cars are just flying out to help distract the police for the characters. It's just one of those movies that maybe I do have some red tinted glasses on, and it's mainly nostalgia for me. But I think even from a writing standpoint and sequencing standpoint, done by John Singleton, takes this movie to a different level that the other movies don't really reach. They each Fast and the Furious movie has their their pros and cons, but I think this movie is definitely more pro than con. I don't think there's anything wrong with this movie. I think it's a very solid film, and even if it didn't have the name Too Fast, Too Furious attached, it would have been a great standalone film. Now I must talk about Knives Out 2019, directed by Ryan Johnson. I remember I didn't watch it when this first came out. I remember watching this maybe 2021, 2020, somewhere around COVID, and just on Amazon Prime, and I was blindsided by how great this film was on my first watch. Brian did such an excellent job of creating this world that that seems close to ours, but like little quirks that are different. But it definitely had a lot of little hints and nods to where he was going for. I think the backdrops, the scenery, the just the set design were so beautiful, captivating, that it was like something you just couldn't take your eyes on. You could just like take one still frame of certain areas and just literally put them up on your wall, in my opinion. As well as I wanted to talk about how he created this journey for our protagonist to go through, and is both entertaining and intriguing to see play out. So you never really, you want her to win, but it's just like, but you're also wanting to know what got her there. And then once you realize where the story is going, it's like, how does she do it? How is she going to move from this point on? And
I don't even want to say any more than that. It was a well-written script combined with an all-star cast, and their performances, did a great job with everything. And I can't, I can't really say any much more. I think this is a film that everybody should at least give it a chance and enjoy. Now, one of my favorites from this that I grew up with watching a whole lot would be Rush Hour 2, 2001, directed by Brett Ratner. This is my favorite in the franchise, and many would agree. And somewhat of a hot take, I think this is one of the greatest sequel movies of all time. And if you want to debate me, I would love to hear what you have to speak on in the comments, or just at me on Twitter. But we can have a very vivid discussion about this. But to back to the topic at hand, the other two films are very solid for sure, but Rush Hour 2 just stands alone at the top. Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker are just struck gold again with this sequel. Their characters Carter and Lee found themselves in the middle of an international case, and that's bringing more fights, more stunts, and even better punchlines in this film. Jackie Chan and Chris are one of the best on-screen pairings I think ever. At least minimum top 5 to 10. The chemistry that they have and they build throughout the franchise is impeccable and a joy to watch over and over and over again. I can't even try to count the times I've watched and quote this movie. Like I told you in the beginning, it's just one of those. It's just one of those. Oh, it's such an amazing film. Just to be enamored with it, I can't even. I'm a loss for words. This is just a great film, and if you have any problems with it, that's on you. Now, an underrated film that I have on my all-time list is Harlem Nights, 1989, directed by Eddie Murphy. This is not no regular star-studded casted film. This is a star-studded cast full of comedic royalty. This movie was basically made for me to love. From Eddie Murphy to Richard Pryor to Red Fox, this film holds three generations of comedy to make for a recipe of a classic film that not too many speak of in high regards. This film has plenty of quotables that bring tons of laughs to fans. Everyone in the film knew their role and brought their A game to it. This is a film that I remember constantly seeing and reference in my household. And one of the biggest reasons is I have a connection to it because of one of my favorite albums from a rapper that my father used to play a lot when I was younger was DJ Quick from his 1995 album Safe and Sound. He uses a lot of snippets from the album just because the main character played by Eddie Murphy is named Quick, and so it's very easy to see why he will sample the album, sample the movie, and using the different references. So me growing up before I even seen the film, I kind of had a connection to it, and I understood a lot of the reference that were going on. So it made me do the Leo DiCaprio, stand up and point. I know. Oh, that's exactly that, and that's why that's just one of the smaller reasons why I love it. But it's a great film. This is probably the most recent movie I've watched on this list, and it still holds up from the first time I've seen it. Now, for a film that I will defend wholeheartedly forever and ever and ever in my life is Blade 2, 2002, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Wesley Snipes reprises the role of the character he made better. This film expands the world of the vampire with del Toro as director this time around. You must know that vampires are going to be amped up to 100. He loves his monsters of all kinds. He loves the lore, and that is seen in this film. Within this film, there's a new breed of vampire called the Reapers that have a Nosferatu-inspired look, but a twist that many should find out for themselves if you haven't seen it already. This film is definitely one of my most watched films ever. I was at least 5 or 6 years old watching this film constantly and constantly and constantly. I don't mind the certain scenes with quote unquote wonky CGI, but this movie is just so raw to me. It's a film that gave me my second favorite fight scene in the Blade franchise. Finally, I have to mention that Wesley is just Blade. I mean that in the sense that without him, certain traits that we see today would not be so known. The character was totally different before he got a hold of it, and he was able to make the character his own. And because of that, the character took they took the essence of the Blade movies and like how he looked and made that the new canon. This is the Blade that people see and know now. So I find that truly amazing. and that goes along with this movie. Great cast, great stars, great fights. Oh, I just love this movie so much. I'm just running on. Now, I would just like to say this is the end. That's all the movies I wanted to talk about. I have plenty more that I truly love, but maybe that will make for a part two. I just noticed while writing this that some of the movies follow the hero's journey, like I was talking about with Django, which I find kind of interesting. But as well as, I guess I love me a movie that I can quote multiple times, or maybe that goes along with the amount of times I've seen the film. Um, but that's neither here nor there. Is there any films that we share, or is there a film that you want me to watch that you love, that's on your all-time list, that you think maybe got missed out on, or needs the looks of docs on it? Please drop all these in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe to help your boy out. This is only beginning from here. So lastly, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again for another Rorvis reviews. And another